challenging, creative, and social activities that demand dynamic, deliberate play. So what do those words mean? Those are the confusing words. Dynamic is actually a really simple word for 5 different physical skills: strength, stamina, agility, balance, and flexibility, the 5 skills that matter most. And the World Health Organization has very specific guidelines for peak performance aging. You want to engage in 150 to 300 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity every week, 2 strength training days and 3 balance, flexibility, and agility days. Or you find a single dynamic activity that trains all of those skills at once. So what's a dynamic activity? Skiing, sport I chose, very dynamic. Snowboarding, most of the action sports, because they combine strength, stamina. Tennis also is great. Badminton is great. In fact, if you look, Mayo Clinic did this great study where they wanted to know what are the physical activities that correlate with the longest longevity. And they started with, you join a health club, right? You've been sedentary, you join a health club. Well, after 20 years of data, you get an extra year and a half of life for joining your health club and working out. If you start running, it's about 3 years. Swimming's 3.5 years. Soccer will get you about 5 or 6 years, possibly because it's got a social component. But tennis and badminton are the 2 best sports they tested. And it has to do with fast twitch muscle response and hand-eye coordination and strength, stamina, all that other stuff. It trains up all those skills. But here's the final bonus around dynamic activities. We've all heard exercise is good for the brain, but not all exercise was created equal, and dynamic activities work the best. When the brain has to coordinate like agility with strength and stamina, it actually amplifies 2 big words: angiogenesis and neurogenesis. So if you want to preserve brain function, you need new neurons. You need the brain to create new neurons and then turn those into new neural networks. Neurogenesis is the birth of new neurons. Angiogenesis is the birth of new blood vessels that get oxygen to those neurons and keep them alive. Dynamic motion boosts both. So you get all the physical benefits and you get these brain benefits. Deliberate play, what is deliberate play and why is it there? You want to preserve cognitive function. Lifelong learning is what matters the most. And what really matters is wisdom and expertise. The most vulnerable area to cognitive decline is the prefrontal cortex, or the part of your brain that's behind your forehead. How do you preserve the prefrontal cortex? You create wildly diverse neural networks with lots of redundancy across the prefrontal cortex. What are the 2 biggest ones you could produce there? Expertise and wisdom. How do you gain wisdom and expertise? Deliberate practice was the old idea. That's Anders Ericsson's 10,000 hours. Do the same thing you did before with a little bit of improvement. You've probably heard this before. Turns out deliberate practice is good, but even Anders Ericsson said, hey, it's good for if you want to learn how to play the violin or be a math genius, this kind of work is great. But it turns out deliberate play is better than deliberate practice. Deliberate play is if repetition with improvisation. You do what you did before and then you improvise a little bit in a playful fashion on top of it. This amplifies learning and memory more than regular deliberate practice. So you get more expertise, you get more wisdom. Anything that fights stress is an anti-aging technology. We know if you go into nature, time in nature produces serotonin and lowers stress levels significantly. So that's one of the reasons you're going into nature. And the last reason is the human brain evolved to do a very specific thing. It wants to remember where you were whenever something emotionally charged happens. And it has very specific software for that. It lives in a place called the hippocampus. The hippocampus does long-term memory, but it also does place. It's got grid cells and place cells. And it's because we were hunter-gatherers. So like remembering where is the watering hole or the ripe fruit tree or the cave where that saber-toothed tiger lived. This is fundamental survival. So the brain is built to do it, which is why most neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, come out of the hippocampus. So if you want to preserve cognitive function, you want to use our biology the way it's designed to be used, that means you want to have novel experiences in novel outdoor environments.